All right, let's get started. So what we're gonna do today is simple. We're gonna take a look at connecting PHP to MySQL. So I'll create an index file, and what will I do really? In this index file, I'll add some HTML. Okay. I think I need to save it first. Okay, Emmet has refused to work today. I just can't tell why, but it's okay. I can write the code here. So I just want to implement a simple HTML file, which is called login, because we are going to use the use case of logging in and signing up in order to connect PHP to MySQL. So right here, let me first save this. Yes, so something like this, and then we are going to get a file here, and we shall call it login.php. Okay, now let's begin. So how do we connect, and even why do we connect PHP to MySQL? So MySQL is a database. MySQL is a database management system, or is a database management system. So that means we can create databases, structured databases using MySQL, and be able to store data, okay, in an unorganized behavior. So that's what happens. That's why we need to connect PHP to MySQL. I mean, that's what MySQL is. So the reason we connect to PHP to MySQL could be many, but could be many. However, primarily is for PHP is to use PHP to do what? To interact with MySQL, with the databases in MySQL, and that way we can retrieve, add, modify, and delete data from MySQL using PHP. So that's the reason why. Now let's take a look at the example. What we are going to do first is we shall go to the browser and we can access MySQL databases via localhost. Then you put the port number of your localhost server, if the server for MAMP, then you /PHP my admin. Once you do that, you are given this interface where a lot of MySQL databases are. Some of them were created by me in this one. So if you open yours and you don't find something like this, it's because this one here was created by me. Weather was created by me, WordPress was created by me. But to create a database, you will click over here, databases, then you'll be presented with this screen, which reads create database. And we are going to create a database called school, school MIS. Yes, that's the name we're gonna use. For now, we shall leave this alone and to the default and click create. Once you create the database, which is now here, and it's selected for you so that you can continue doing other things. The database you've created is just a name. Imagine that you have a warehouse and this warehouse has a name that people can recognize, but you've not yet added information to this warehouse. So here, this title you see that reads create new table, to a warehouse, it's like adding shelves in your warehouse. So we are going to create a table and we shall call it members, okay? You will leave it with 4 columns for now and click add. Yeah, some errors can appear, but don't be intimidated. We can click ignore all and then we can proceed. So you can see here that the table has been created, database table has been created, but no, it's not yet fully created because you want to add the columns to the table. So what you're going to do is probably start with the ID column, and yeah, it can be integer, which is a number. And importantly, we want to make it not be null. Just a moment, I want to see, I can't see some, okay, here, scroll here. So we want to make sure that it's not null, it cannot have an empty, we want to make sure that it cannot have any empty values. And then there is this, which is auto increment. So we want to make sure that this auto increments itself. And then the moment we select that auto increment, it will be turned to a primary key. Much information about primary keys, data types, and everything in databases, you can cover them in the database, dedicated session. But this session assumes that you have an idea about database, but since you are a PHP student, you want to learn how can you connect your database with the PHP. So after doing that, you are going to add the date. It's important to know when a record was added to your database. So this date, we can use the date timestamp, the date time or the timestamp. And for it, we can choose more values like, for example, the default can be current timestamp, so that if the user does not provide the date, the system generates from the current and then it uses. Then these ones, we can leave them out. That's for the date. Then we are interested in the username. Then for the username, we shall use varchar, and we can give it a length of 16 so that people don't have very long usernames, because usernames are always supposed to be memorable. So probably 16. Default value can be none, and we can leave, in this system, usernames should not be null, should not be left empty. And here we can put password key. So if we put password key, we want this password key to be a bit secure. So we shall come and choose something called this virtual, and then the password can be long. So, but we can do a 64 string, or if 64 string length value, then we can, I think 65, I'm not really sure. And then leave the rest. No, we shall make sure that this is also not empty by checking the null. So if we check the null, I think we are enabling empty. If we don't check it, we are disabling empty. That's what I'm thinking. Then you will click go and save here. And the table is now created. You can see it's called members, and it has this structure. It has a column called ID, a column of date, a column of username, a column of password. And you can see that timestamp can allow null. We can change that because we've said that it should have, what? The default value should be the current date. So I believe that is okay. Now we can go back to our table, click structure, and see. So none of these fields can be left empty. So with the PHP-MyAdmin, we can add some data, okay? And we see, so we can go to insert here, and then you start putting in the values. So this one, we said it should auto increment, so we shall not put the value. This, we said it should have the current, it can use the current timestamp, and username we can add. So I will put dev.ug, and the password I'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I will come over here and to the functions column. You can see the functions column. Then select MD5 here. What the MD5 is going to do, it's going to encrypt this. It's going to encrypt this string, and in the table we shall not see this password. So I click go, then I go to browse, and you can see that we've created a record in our database, but this record that has been created is not created by PHP, it's created by PHP-MyAdmin. And you are not, if, say for example, you are building a social media platform, you are not going to give people PHP-MyAdmin, you need to give them your own interface. So now let's see how can we connect PHP to the database, and then we'll be able to add more details. I'll go back to code in my file here, and I think, I don't know why this is red, but we shall see later. So we are going to add, here you will add the code for so steps. One is specify the database details. 2, use PHP, implement PHP code that connects to the database. 3, start manipulating the database. All right, so let's go. So you will create a variable here, and some of the information, the database details they need is the server where the database name is, and on MAMP, WAMP, and most places, it's localhost. So it's a string. Then, oh, excuse me, I'll write this as server name with this. Then, and here I'll correct there. I don't need to indent it. Then the other thing they need is the username, you know, that your database uses. By default, it's root by default and password, which is also by default, I believe, empty string. And here you specify the database name. Okay, and the database name we've created was student MIS. Then we save that, and this is the first step. Okay, so I'll put it here and then do that, comment it out. Then the second step to implement, so you are going to write some simple code for connecting, for making sure that whatever you've specified here actually works. So the most important thing is to use some methods that were introduced. You will use some methods. Excuse me about that. Sorry about that. So you will use some functions from PHP, and the function we are going to use is, we are going to assign it to a connection variable, and we shall use this. It's actually a class, MySQL I. Then it accepts these values here as arguments. So what we shall do is, the first one is the server name, and the second one is the username. The third should be the password, and then the database name. Okay, database name here, and we have to terminate. Then what we can do now is to check whether there is an error or not. And if there isn't an error, we shall proceed. So we shall write here, over here, that if connection, then we can access something. If you don't know PHP object-oriented programming, this might be a little bit intimidating, but it shouldn't. We can also use something which is procedural programming. But let's first look at this. Probably we shall see both methods. Okay, so we shall check if there's a connection error by accessing a property from the connection instance we created. And if there's an error, we can echo something. There's an error. We can even bring that error down here. Copy and paste, and so else Now we can say echo database connection successful. So here I will change this to error connecting to database. You save that, and then you can go to the browser and you write login.php. So unexpected token, there's an error on line 29. I'll go there and see line 29 is here. So unexpected token. Why is that? It's because I missed a semicolon here. So I'll refresh and uncode MySQL exception access denied for user root. So I've not provided the password, and the system thinks that I should provide it. So probably it's root as well, because I believe I left it on the default. Yes, so, and now the other error is unknown database, student MYS. So we can, this is, you should go back. Oh, the database is school MYS. Sorry about the name. So I'll go over here and change it back. So those are the errors you might find if you have them. And that's why you have to take it slow before you implement much code. So here you go, undefined property, MySQL connection error on line 24, database connection successful. So this is a warning. This is not an error that will stop other PHP code to run. But let's view line 24. Line 24 is here. So you have connection and connection error. So I made a mistake here. It should be connect error instead of connection error. And I think we should not have errors again. So now, what if I put a wrong password, like I do root, instead of root, I do ru, you can see that connection successful does not come, but access denied comes. So this means that if you have a server and you have the database and you are the only one who knows the login details, that means your database is secure. No one can steal the data from it. So now the next thing is to go and implement some HTML that can rely on our database. So how are we going to do that? We shall create a form, method equals login dot method equals post, action equals login dot php, and we close that. Then we can do, let me see if emit is working again. Oh, I just don't know why emit is not working. So input type equals text, name equals username, placeholder equals username, enter username. Then I'll put a break here. Then, so basic things, shouldn't be really complicated. So, and type password, name equals password, and placeholder equals enter password. So then we can add the button, the submit button, type submit, then you can put here login to continue. Okay, so we remember that we've already been able to do something which is really nice, which was what? We've already added a user to the database called school MYS in the table called members. So we are going to make this script connect to the database. But before that, let's test it out by going to the browser and then make sure that this works. Yes, that works. So shall remove this and go to the index. The index looks like this. So if I enter david.vug, if you remember, the password was 123456. Log in to continue. So once I click that, the action is engaged and we get database connection successful, but this doesn't mean that we've logged in. Okay, so to log in, we can now here in where excuse me, here in the else statement, instead of showing database connection successful, we shall comment it out. Then we can start fetching data from the form and also continue to the database. So what we shall do now is simple. We shall create a variable here called my username equals to. So here we can engage the post global variable, then we put username, and you can, at this time, you can sanitize. So sanitize, oh, let me first add the password. My password equals to post. So as if you've been following the previous sessions, you know what this means because we covered it. If you don't know, you watch the previous sessions on this YouTube channel. So now we can proceed and start sanitizing or clean the data for security reasons. And we shall do a simple clean. So PHP is dynamic, so we can bring the username variable back and assign it to trim, which removes arbitrary or unnecessary spaces from the string. Then we shall also strip the slashes and strip tags, and then from my username, so that if someone enters HTML codes, JavaScript codes in just a moment. Yeah, so we are doing this so that if someone enters codes like SQL, HTML, we don't want them to break the PHP code or the database. So here we've passed like a lot of functions. They are all been passed to this stream function as arguments, and then the value has been passed to these strip tags as arguments. This should be self-explanatory if you watched the video about functions. Now we assume that our things are clean. So before we proceed, we can try to we can echo them out to see if we've really got them. So I'll echo the password, I'll echo break line, and then echo my username. So let's give it a test. Go to the browser back and refresh, and then we enter David of UG and enter the password. Click login to continue, and you see strip slashes seems to be wrong, but I can just come here, PHP strip slashes, and see probably the right function is this without an underscore. So I'll go back to here and do this. VS Code had already detected it because you see how it highlighted this function with the blue to indicate that this I don't understand. So I'll go back to it. It's a general rule of thumb that write a little piece of code, test, write a little piece of code and test, as opposed to writing a large piece and then, you know. However, also this kind of testing that I'm doing in this video is referred to as manual testing. So you might want to do unity testing. So you see the password is here and the username is here. So let's see if that can be gotten from the database. So now the next thing we shall do is to retrieve information from the database. How to retrieve information from the database? So this one here, I've used it, but I'll just comment it out. Okay, just like that, because I no longer need it. Now I'll go to the step of retrieving, retrieve information from the database. So how are we going to do it? This session assumes you know some bit of SQL, but if you don't know, I'll publish a tutorial about SQL. However, databases like MySQL, to interact with them, you need to know SQL language. And let's see, so we are going to write here a variable, and we shall call it query. Then we shall assign it a string, which is an SQL string. For now, we are going to select everything from the table, and the table is going to be called members in small letters. For now, oh, wait a moment. Yeah, I think it's okay. For now, we are going to select everything from members, but we shall keep modifying the query so that, you know, after doing that, after writing the query, you need to pass it to some function from MySQL. And this function should be, a what? Let me see. What variable can I use? I'm gonna use results, okay? And then I say result, and then I say equals to the function that I was talking about, MySQL underscore query. This function comes in PHP, and it's one of the inbuilt functions that enables PHP to interact with MySQL. And the first argument should be the connection. The second argument should be the query. That's why at the top here, we started with creating a connection on line 22. Okay, now we pass the connection to MySQL query, and then we pass the query string as the second argument. And after doing that, we can check whether there's an error or not. But before it's important to close the MySQL connection by using the MySQL I clause, and you put the connection here. This improves the performance of your database because it will be released from memory whenever I stop using it. In the middle here is where we shall write. We shall display information here. So again, we can now go back to the browser and test our thing. I'll remove this, go back to index, by the way, even if I don't put anything, this will move to the next page. You can see it has moved and it has not shown us any error or response because here we are not outputting anything. But it also means we don't have errors so far. So what can we do? What we can do now is simple. We can check if we have rows, because databases are made up of rows and columns. Each resource in the database is a row, and each row has columns. So here we shall check if there are some rows from MySQL by using MySQL I num rows function like that. And this one takes in the result. Hold on a moment. MySQL I numbers. I just don't know why it has been highlighted blue, but let's just continue. We shall see the error if it's there. So numbers, this one gives you the numbers. You can echo them out, or you can just use it for comparison. So if these are greater than 0, we can say echo data found. And if there's nothing, we can say echo data not found. So something like that, but I've made some mistakes here which I need to correct. I've corrected them. Now let's go back and refresh the browser to see if we've introduced any errors. Data found, wow, because we have one resource in our table. In fact, if we want to know that data is found, we can just here, we can take this one, can copy it away, cut it away, and then put it over here. And we can say num rows equals to that, terminate. Then we can say echo, or instead of echoing here, we can just echo it here by putting these numbers. Put it here, then we say results found. That can tell us how many results are found, and we expect it to be 1. So I'll go here, reload, click continue. I have an error on line 46. Yes, these are errors. Yes, I made a mistake here, and I needed to copy this and paste it. Then save, sorry. Yeah, 1 results found. That's great. So now that we found the result, but the problem is that this result we found is that we can have many results, but when you are implementing a login system, you should know 1 or 2 things: that a user can exist once in the database, not many times. So this means that the database will only allow 1 David of UG username as opposed to allowing many. So what that implies is that we need to make a query that picks the particular user. And that's the reason why we started by defining my username and my password variables and assign to them the content that is coming from the form or the values. So what we are going to do here on the SQL string, we are going to add a clause called where, and we shall say, we shall specify the column which was username. Okay, I'll go back to the database to be sure. This is our click structure. So username and password. Okay. So what I'll do here, I'll say username equals to, and I'll put this. I think I can even put, okay, for now, I'll do this and then say my username. Okay. Then I'll add on where username and password, because you want to find users that have matching username and password. So put my password here and save. Now, this is most likely not going to work because of the color I see with the brackets. So if that's the case, okay, let's first test it out. Okay, so we shall go back to the browser, reload, click continue, and you have an error in the SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to your MySQL subversion for the right syntax to use near and. So that means that I have to put these inside, I think, inside quotes instead of, so let's see if this one works. We shall reload. Data not found. This is really great. The reason why data is not found is because, let's take a look at the data that I'll copy this one here. And then come over to here where it says data not found. Then I'll do then I'll write, okay, data not found, and then I'll write here echo break line, excuse me. Then I'll say echo, this is the data you provided, you entered in the form. I'll do that, and I'll put a break line here, then terminate so that we see the data we provided, because I need to show you something. So if I click continue, oh, wait a moment, the data. So yes, it has not shown any data because we did not enter any data in the form, if you remember. So I'll go back, and now we are going to see, I'll enter David of UG, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 6, which is the password we entered, save, but still it says not found, data not found. This is the data you entered in the form, and you see that the password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the username is David of UG. But if you recall, if we go back to our database table and browse, you recall that the password is this. So the password is not 1, 2 to the database. The password is not 1, 2, 3 up to. 6. It's this string. So how can we do that? How can we use our password to find the right user? So what we can do here is that, first of all, we can say, we can now remove this and say, instead of saying data not found, now we can say login failed. Then, excuse me, let me undo. I delete this, then I'll comment this one, duplicate it, and then bring this and say login failed. Then I won't display this, so I'll say login failed, check your username and password. Okay. Then here at the where clause, before the where clause, on the password here, I'll do something, and that something is after the password is totally cleaned, I will do another password, which is, let me do this, password hash. That's what I'll do, is equal to MD5. MD5 is a function in PHP that encrypts or creates MD5 hashes or strings out of other strings. So it usually creates a string of, I don't remember how many characters, but they are usually many. So we shall now put our my password here as an argument, terminate this line, and here where we have my password, we shall put password hash. The reason we are doing that is to compare the hash which is already stored in the database with the password, with the hash that has been generated from the password the user entered in the login form. So now we shall go and here and reload, click continue, and you can see one results found. So this is when we can tell someone that login is successful here. Where there is results found, now we can comment that out and we say echo you've logged in successfully. Okay. And we can tell them we can now show your details. Echo your details are, I think I need to break the line. And also here I need to break the line. So this is a pretty basic stuff, but for newbie, I'm sure it will help. So here we shall, because here when we selected the things, here some data has been returned, and that data is stored in results. Okay, so we may want to display it, and we can use another function from MySQL. That function is, shall say, row is equal to MySQL, because remember, no, we need to traverse the results that of the number of rows. So we shall say, while there is a row, if they can get a row using this. From what? From the results. Now echo the information, like you can echo the ID, and the ID, we can say row and ID. So those who know how to access associative arrays, here you are covered. Then we can say date and put it over here, row. Now here in what you enter in the brackets, the square brackets is simple. These are the columns, okay? These are the columns. So it's not important to show the data. It's not it's not good practice to show the password to users. So we are going to display the username and say row password. So what I enter here is a column name in a table. So what mistake have I done? So looks like I can't use this. Oh, the mistake could be here. Yeah. So save. Then we can go to here, reload, and continue. Oh, see, I made a mistake. Instead of putting username, I put password, and it's wrong to display the password to the public. So don't be like me, right? Yes, so here are the things, and we can say that the person has logged in. That is the best way, that's the best login, but we can do, in the next session, we shall proceed and take this further to the actual login. This is real basic, but it at least I'm sure that it has helped you to see how to connect PHP to the database. You've seen how to create a database using PHP MyAdmin, how to clean user input from forms and prevent SQL injections, and we've defined an SQL statement here, which picks data from the database based on what the user has provided in the form. And then we've used these MySQL I query, MySQL I fetch a sock, and MySQL num rows as PHP functions that interact with the MySQL database. So next time we shall look at the PHP's session function and really take the user to the logged in page if they are logged in, and then also show a login link, a logout link so that they log out, and probably the registration. But for the registration, I think we can do it now. So what I can do, I'm gonna copy this code over here and paste it here. Then I'll give this code a title, which is H1, login, enter, no, I'll just say login. Okay. Then I can say on this one that sign up. Okay. So sign up, and then the sign up can take the action of sign up.php. And we have the username here and the password. And then here we can say sign up. Okay. And so right now we need to create a sign up.php file. Oh, we shall copy some code from login. Okay. We can copy all of it and remove what we don't want. And so we shall paste it here, and we can remove these. Then we can leave this here and this here. Then for this, where we can also leave this the way it is. Can remove this. And now instead of selecting, we insert into, we define the columns we want to insert into, which is going to be username and password, and then values. So here, the two values we shall put. Someone may wonder why we are not inserting. These ones should be strings. Excuse me. So someone may wonder why I'm not specifying the ID and the date. I am not, because we told the MySQL engine to auto increment the password, the ID. So if we enter new records, the ID numbers are going to be increasing. Then for the date, we still told the MySQL system to auto generate the date. So now we are going to remove this. Just a moment. I will remove this and just leave my username and the password hash, comma, the password hash, and put it there. So I think that's all right. Then we can run this command here, okay? This command here, and we don't want the rows, so we can leave this out. Oh wait, it's okay. We can leave it here, and then you see. No, this one is not important at this moment. And then instead of having this, we can put result here. If it has worked, then we are going to say something. So we are going to say, if there is something in the result, we can say registration successful. Can say something like that, save, and then here we can say registration failed. So, and remove this. So I'll uncomment, I'll remove this away, out, and then of course we have to proceed with closing the connection. And I think this will work. So let's go. I'll click back and I will refresh. So we have two forms. There's login and the sign up. So the sign up this time around, I'll put David Anyuru, and I'll write the password. So I'll click sign up. An error is here. So there's an error here. You have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to the MySQL server version for the right syntax to use near username, and then password values. So I need to cross-check on Google, insert records. To MySQL using PHP. So I just need to cross-check something, and then let's go to W3 School. So you can see here, I've known what I missed the moment I reached here. So I wrote the word insert into, I did not write the table name. So I have to go back and specify the table name here, right here, members. And then I think now the rest is okay. So let's go back to our system and click back. David Anu, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so that's the password I've entered. An error again. And this time around, it says check the manual that is at line. So what's the issue? Inserting two members thrown on this line. And okay, let me go back here. The 6, so column, the columns are not in strings, so I need to fix that here. And need to fix that up here and here and here. Save and check again. Okay. So go back and enter the password again. Click sign up. Yes, the unknown column David Anur. So let's see here. Column is, oh, so looks like this password thing here. Does it have a problem? Or do I have to? I think this is where I have the mistake. I think here. I think I may need to put this here. Or these brackets so that it can be considered as a variable inside a string. So let's go back and then try again. Okay, still it's considering my value as a column. So I'm making an error. Inserting two members, username, password, values. Oh, wait a moment. Is it that? Values. Then okay, let's go back to W3 schools and check. So right about here, values are put this way, and about values that are not okay, I think I need to go to another one. I need to insert data that is from variables. So try this. Oh, this one is also. Sorry, guys. Ooh. Oh, I don't, I'm not finding the solution, but don't worry, we shall get it. Ooh, let's to this. Okay, yeah, yes. So I need something like this, and yes, here we go. So I think I've got it. I have to put the values in single quotes like that, and probably, but I also see this password thing has been highlighted. given a different color. So I don't know how it's being treated. So I'll save and go back. Then sign up. Wow, registration successful. So that was the stumbling block. Now we can go to the browse and to the database and browse, and here you go. You see, so you see these strings are similar. I think because I might have entered the same password. So for that case, let's check. Let's do another registration. This time we are going to say Henry Onyango. Then we shall enter a different password this time. So because the MD5 generates random strings, now I'll come, you can see here it says registration is successful, and we can now reload. You can see that this string is different from these other two strings. So these other two strings, it means the password is the same. All right, that's it for today. Let's meet in the next video and proceed to improving to learn more about MySQL and PHP. See you in the next.